All right, everyone, welcome back to the AAA podcast. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, Ashley Kowalewski. Normally, I'd roll out this big, long introduction of all the places you worked and stuff, but I think we're going to end up talking about that because you have a pretty elite resume. So I want to kind of save that surprise for later. So I was thinking we'd just jump right into things with our kind of like gimmicky question that we always start things off with,
Cool.
Which is about your coffee consumption. Which kind of trying to pull coaches on their love for coffee. So how much are you drinking a day? What's your go-to way of intaking caffeine? And how has your relationship changed over time?
Oh, what's changed? Okay. Well, I used to not be very good at it, right? Like I used to just drink coffee because it was there and we made it in the weight room. And during my fellowship at Michigan and some other places that we were at, we were responsible for that. They're like, make the coffee. And so we would just drink coffee all day because it was there and fine. Well, I have unmedicated ADHD, so coffee puts me right here. Coffee is not a stimulant for me. Caffeine is not a stimulant for me. So it probably keeps me manageable, honestly. Coffee probably keeps me at a level that most people can tolerate me at, which is great for everybody. But I am a 1 cup a day human being in the morning, and most strength coaches clutch their pearls at that. But I'm a snob. I'm sitting in my kitchen and I'm looking at my coffee pour over setup. And I have Black Fox coffee right now and some coffee that I roasted last week. And it's the best. Coffee is my ritual. It's sacred to me in the morning. Right now I'm waking up at 3:30 every morning because I have a training session at 5 with some kids that have internships over the summer. And the first thing I do in the morning after getting myself ready is come in here, turn the kettle on and start brewing some badass coffee. So once a day, it's changed from me knowing zero things and knowing nothing about coffee to what I know now, which is how to roast it and how to brew it effectively. And I love it. And anywhere you are, if I'm there too, I've probably asked you to get coffee with me at some point or taken you to get coffee. It's just something I really love. So great question. I love that question.
I think that's new for us. I don't think we've had a coach say that they know how to roast their own coffee yet. So
It's pretty niche. I'll give it to you.
you might be in first place there.
Absolutely.
Wait, so you like actually roast the coffee beans?
Mm-hmm. There's a place down in New Orleans called Current Crop, and I go down and I select. They order beans from all over the world. So coffee beans before you roast them are green, and go down there. You select what you want. I buy a pound, 3 pounds, 5 pounds at a time, and I roast. And like I'm sending John out. I roasted some for John yesterday, and he was like, "Yeah, send me some," because he's a coffee snob too. I said, "You got it." So shooting people coffee beans everywhere. That's what I'll do when I'm done playing strength coach. I'll open up a coffee shop and a little roastery so everybody can come hit that up whenever.
Let's go. Yeah, I've been into the coffee making lately. My mom, Lord bless her, my mom got me a new like Breville coffee machine, like one of the touchscreen ones.
Yeah.
And so the next step, I've been going to the store and buying like coffee that's just roasted in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But that's gonna be the next step is roasting my own. And like once you do that, it's kind of hard to like drink coffee from anywhere else.
It
honestly.
is, except really good coffee. Rowan, What about you? I gotta know now.
Yeah, I was a no coffee guy for a long time. I've started to slowly work my way into the caffeine in the morning world, but that's more of we have a nitro brew like keg in our office. Here in Portland, Maine. And so sometimes when you're sitting there getting some work done before the day starts, it's really hard to not have that talking to you and just it's
A nitro brew keg. That's wild. How
That's
cool is
crazy.
that? Maybe that's my next request in the weight room. We have a Coke freestyle machine. Maybe I just need to ask for a nitro pool. I think football has one, actually. Pretty sure football has one, but what don't they have over there? Who knows? They have
You say a
everything.
Coke machine?
It's a freestyle, yeah. So uh, it, yes, it is technically a Coke machine. We don't put Coke in it because
Oh,
it's,
okay.
a weight room. But it's their freestyle. So that touchscreen one that you go to a
Yeah.
restaurant and or whatever. In my mind, Chipotle has them, but yeah, that's what they are. It's kind of cool.
That's sick.
Interesting.
What do you guys
So you have to
in it?
clean it. Powerade, sparkling water, Dasani, vitamin water, maybe at some point. At one point, we had like tea, like the peace tea and like lemonade stuff, but I think we took that out of there because gross. It wasn't a good time.
Man, I would be ripping sparkling water during my lifts.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, so do athletes just like bring their water bottle over and just like fill it with
Oh
like
yeah.
iced tea?
Whatever. Yeah, I did have one that used to drink sweet tea just all the time. And I was like, dude, that can be good for you, but whatever. Do you?
That's so funny. I feel like I want a weight room with just like energy drinks, just
Oh,
different ones to get 4 out.
uh,
I know it's
that'd
not
be.
ideal. I know it's not good, but like I think it'd just be kind of funny if like instead of
I
water,
know it's not good, but I think it would be elite, just elite
yeah,
level gym of just having something crazy like Ghost just all up and down.
yeah. Well, even like that C4 facility with all the
Dude,
C4s all over. Rowan, there's C4s all over the facility, on
yeah,
the
it's
turf,
wild.
in the kitchen.
I'm
It's
I'm
insane.
so out on the energy drinks because half the like flavors, like what even is it?
They're like
Yeah.
Skittles. This is Pop Tart flavor. Pop Tart? What? Dreamsicle. Oh, okay. I'm better on that one. What? Like
Yeah,
there's all kinds of kinds. Cereal. Wasn't there a cereal one,
th-
Anthony? I'm pretty sure there was.
there is a
Yeah, they're
cereal
probably. I
one.
think they're probably like a Fruit Loops. I know there's a Fruity Pebbles. That's kind of
That's wild.
disgusting.
That's
But
wild. That's
I,
crazy.
my favorite one I've ever had is G Fuel used to have an old one. And it was a Sonic Peach ring. And that one's the best one I've ever had.
Hmm.
And like I believe I ran faster after drinking it. But like Sonic after.
I love that. That's
You gotta
great.
evoke emotion into your audience. Gotta evoke emotion.
They got you.
And
Alrighty. Well, Ashley, as I alluded to earlier, and as you kind of maybe started on at the very beginning of that answer, you've been at several places: LSU now, University of Missouri, University of Arizona, Michigan. You had an internship at the NSCA headquarters. You worked with some Paralympic athletes at a training center too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Um,
USOPC.
yeah. Do you want to walk us through your career a little bit? Maybe even in order of the steps that you took, just so we can give ourselves and the viewers a better understanding of your journey.
Sure. So I was a college athlete, and I threw the javelin at the University of Oklahoma, and got done with that. Had a pretty horrific accident, ended up in the hospital for a while, and went from 135 pounds of just like the most athletic person I've ever been, right? Like post collegiate athletics to 98 pounds of gross, like sad little bones. And in that year, that was 2016, in that year, I was like, I have to do something, right? Like I knew I loved the weight room. I knew that I wanted to do something akin to training. I didn't know what that meant. I thought maybe PT school. My college strength coach had called me actually, and we were having a conversation, and he said, you should give being a strength coach a shot. He was like, I think you'd be really good at it. You got the personality, you got the attitude for it. And I was like, cool, dude, I'll try anything right now. I'm literally trying to get back into the weight room and train. And I built myself back. So from zero, I didn't get help. I didn't have anybody train me. There was nothing. I was literally less than 100 pounds of bone, and I built myself back. I'm back at fighting weight. I don't think anybody in this world looks at me and thinks that something traumatic has happened to me. Um, and that kind of gave me the confidence that I needed to move forward. So in that next year in 2017, when I was starting to get back to fighting weight and myself again, I was getting my master's degree because I was told that I had to have a master's degree in order to move forward in this field, which is wild for what we make. Okay, everybody should be able to operate literally coming out of high school with the money we make, but that's neither here nor there, and I'm not even a little bit bitter about it. But that I did. I went and got my master's degree, and I did it in an accelerated year. And during that year, I was working with adapted athletes. So that was my first avenue into training, was if I can work with adapted athletes, if I can work with athletes who are missing limbs, can't get up out of a wheelchair, don't have use of their legs, have different issues holding things, have different metabolic diseases, have you know, uh, deaf athletes who are blind. If I can work with all kinds of athletes, college athletes are going to be breeze, right? And at this point, I didn't even know I wanted to work collegiate athletics. So I worked in adapted sport while I was doing my master's, got done with that, and applied at the NSCA, through several people kind of pointing me in the right direction, and was an intern there for 3 months. And at the end of that 3 months, I was extended a full-time role. And that was great. I managed their performance center for a while. I ran several hockey teams out of there. That was great. I love working with hockey. If you've never worked with hockey, it's a fun time, especially the younger they get, the crazier they get. Um, and was in Colorado Springs that whole time. So was really enjoying myself, and also applied for an internship at the United States Olympic Training Center. And that's where I really got a lot more information and a lot more experience working with adapted athletes, because that training center there is big time Paralympic hub for a lot of the USA triathlon, right? The para judo is there. Um, Para swimming, right? There was all kinds of athletes there that I got to work with. And it was a fantastic experience. And it really molded me out as a coach who was just a better communicator and a little bit more creative and curious, because you have to be in order to make it work, right? In order to work with blind athletes, in order to work with athletes in wheelchairs, you have to be creative in order to get the adaptations that you want to get. So while I was at the training center, I was also working full time at the NSCA, and I was also I was doing all kinds of stuff. I've never worked that many jobs all at once and had that many plates in the air, but that's okay. It was great, and I really loved it. I loved my time in Colorado Springs. But while I was there, I was looking for the next thing, and Scott Caulfield, who is one of my mentors, one of my great friends, I adore this man. He was my boss at the time at the NSCA, and he said, "Hey, next steps look like for you probably finding something else, And he had sent me to edit a podcast, and on that podcast, Ashley Jackson was speaking, and he said, at the end of this podcast, you need to reach out to her. And she was at University of Michigan at the time. So sure enough, I did. Started cultivating a relationship with her, and she's still one of my mentors to this day. That's somebody, her and Scott are people that I keep in my life for a reason. But she was the one who eventually reached out to me and said, "Hey, we've got a fellowship position open. Would you like to apply? We want you to apply, and let's see where it goes from there." So that's when my college journey started, was up at the University of Michigan. I had track and field there. I thought for the longest time that I wanted to stay in track and field, until I learned that track and field is the redheaded stepchild of any and all strength and conditioning programs. I didn't know that because I was in it, right? But programming wise, from a programming perspective, you kind of get ham hocked a little bit, and that's okay. Track coaches know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing, especially when it comes to specificity for their sport. So I was there for a while until COVID, and then COVID hit, and they were like, "Hey, if you've been hired in the last, year, no, you weren't. See ya." And we all I was panicking. I think a lot of people were just like, "I'm never going to work again. This is crazy." And my strength coach again comes in and kind of saves the day from college. He called me and we were having a chat, and he said, "Hey, there's a position opening up at the University of Arizona, and I'm going to tell them you're the one. This guy's going to reach out to you. I think this would be really great for you. It's a good opportunity. You are a good fit for this program. Let's go." So sure enough, I get reached out to eventually. I have really great conversations. I land myself the interview. I interview. Was at the University of Arizona for a little over 2 years. Left to go to Mizzou. Was at Mizzou for a year to the day. And then left without another job and didn't know what I was going to do. And came down to LSU to visit some people, and ended up chatting to my boss, my now boss, Melissa Seal. And she said, "Can I offer you a job?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a job." Or job, no job. And hey, started working here with baseball. Jay Johnson was at the University of Arizona, so he knew me. Jeremy McMillan was here at the time as the head strength coach for baseball. And he was like, "Yeah, I want you to come and work with us." I took women's tennis from my boss, who I've had the longest. Women's tennis is my longest held team. This will be my 4th year with them. And it's just been great. LSU, the experience has been great. Been slowly trying to push and make myself better, make the profession better at the same time. Just picked up social media use this last year, literally 3 months ago. Just trying to expose a little bit of the different things that I do. And that's where I'm at right now. LSU is it. And this will be, what is it then? My 8th year in collegiate athletics. So think I've been doing it, and I have been at high levels, and I've been at great institutions. And as long as I'm continuing to push and move forward and learn, I'm pretty safe to say that I'll be here. I think that's my biggest indicator for staying at any job, is if I'm willing to if I'm given the freedom to continue to grow and learn, because I can do that for myself. And I know not all people can do that. And so I feel really lucky to be in the situation I'm at.
Yeah, Ron and I both had the opportunity to work with one of our professors, Dr. Katika, who we've had on on the podcast, but he actually does research with adapted athletes.
Hmm.
And so one of the classes they actually offer at our university is like an adaptive sports class. And
Yeah.
it is just like so cool to work with that population.
Yeah. The
It's sad
Adapted
because
Athlete Foundation is there. Is it not? Adapted at ATF is in Fort Worth.
well, he's actually from he's mentioned that one before, but he's from Washington, so it's called
Oh,
Rainier
okay.
Adaptive Sports.
Mm,
It's basically like a nonprofit, and yeah, you don't realize like what it is until you're actually in it or even play the sports, and like it doesn't, like for example, we play wheelchair basketball, and it's
hmm.
like it is so difficult to play. Like people don't even understand. It's not like it's a regression of like able body
No,
basketball. Like no, like it is
no.
harder. Like your feet aren't in the ground. You're trying to shoot a basketball. So
It is a
it's cool
different
that
sport entirely.
yeah. And so I you kind of touched on it, but um how do you feel like that helped you as a coach in terms of where you are now?
It made me incredibly malleable and I hate to use the same word, but adaptable, right? Like truly it made me curious as to like what will work and what won't. What does conditioning look like for somebody in a wheelchair? What does energy system development look like to that point? What does it look like to train? Do we train, do we just train isometrically? Like what are we looking to do? Am I going to limit you to the chair? Am I going to get you out of the chair? How am I going to let you do a pull up? What does that apparatus look like? How do I use the barbell differently? How do I use implements differently that are more difficult for you to navigate as somebody with a disability? And it's just cool, really, because it gives me the opportunity to ask better questions and to stay curious about how something may or may not feel for somebody in a very different body than mine. And that's no different than athletes that we have now. They're not feeling the same things I'm feeling. Like I have to ask good questions in order to understand the way that I'm coaching these kids. So it's pretty cool because it gave me that leg up right off the bat of, okay, anything and everything can be adapted into what I want to make it. Um, and different training, like not everybody has to squat. Not everybody has to squat the same way. Um, so again, like let me ask better questions, and it led me into some really cool, I think, some really cool situations and some really great conversations with people as to how I can be a better communicator and use my words differently and meet somebody where they're at, whether that's an adapted athlete that has 10 years more experience than me training their own body and they know quite a bit more. Or just asking, again, an athlete that has zero experience and meeting them where they're at and trying to get them to feel things correctly or to learn how to experience certain postures and positions that we use in the weight room.
It's interesting for me to think about, and Anthony and I were recently talking about this, like how much there is as far as like programming wise that we can do. And Anthony
Hmm.
being at TCU, like having access to so much technology and so much different equipment, like how it can be kind of hard to navigate like where you want to go with things and what you want to
Yeah.
do. For you, it was almost the opposite. Starting off in
Yeah.
this field, you had so many constraints that I'm sure once you
Hmm.
got into these bigger colleges that maybe had more built out weight rooms and athletes that maybe could do a bit more of a diverse range of movements, it was like opening the floodgates. I'm sure you just had all of these options all of a sudden. How did you kind of go about navigating that during that transition?
At first, I didn't navigate it very well. Honestly, it was like, oh, let me use all these really cool things without having a great understanding as to how to use them. So then they're pointless. Then they're useless. If you don't know how to use something very well, like I'm not serving anybody. And so that kind of right off the bat was where I went. And I don't know if you've ever looked at the University of Michigan's weight room. Like if you Google that, it's built out crazy. The Stephen M. Ross weight room is insane. Built out. There's not a lot you don't have access to. We had every toy that you could think of. We had every apparatus. We have a hill inside. Like we had a hill inside. We had stadium stairs inside. Just insane, an insane amount of equipment. And it's kind of paralysis by analysis at that point because you're like, what can't I do? There's nothing I can't do. The indoor track is detached. Like there's enough space to do everything. So to that, to the extent at which I think I started using things and continued to use things I had no business using at the time because I didn't know what the heck it meant, right? Using even just gym awares and velocity based training, I wasn't good enough at it to use it well and to interpret what I was getting back to me to help athletes. So the more that I took that stuff back and kind of peeled back layers and was like, okay, what do I get to the simplest level? How can I get to the simplest level of what I'm doing and explain it like I'm explaining it to a child, which you are. You're speaking to somebody who has zero interest in what you're doing. So you need to be able to explain it like that, and understanding coaching up effort or intent matters. And sometimes it's great to have a tool that does that for you or with you, but it's not always an option and it's not always going to be that way. So what does it mean when we coach it up differently? So yeah, having constraints, and I like to think I'm like a constraints led coach. Sometimes I'll put an athlete in a position and have constraints around them that'll keep them safe or will limit them in some way, and then ask them to solve a problem, right? I don't want them to just memorize a bunch of instructions. I want them to solve the problem in front of them and emerge with a solution that works for them and their body. Because sometimes if I'm going to coach something out of them, it might coach them out of it the wrong way. So I really enjoy peeling back the layers on the tech and kind of chilling with it a little bit. Like we have K boxes. I think K boxes honestly might be the most wild piece of equipment that I use right now. Maybe I'm not going to say most expensive because the force plates are definitely the most expensive, but after I got it in my repertoire of how to use those things and how to interpret the data that it spit out, I became a better coach for sure. But I think what got me there was my ability to take it all away and still be very successful and have a low cost approach, act like I don't have any resources at all. And then really build off of that and build understanding off of that. Once you have the competency to work without it.
Yeah. So like talking about how, also, is my video showing or no?
It's a little paused, but
frozen.
it always fixes itself eventually. You're good.
All right. I'm going to trust you. Talking about like being a constraints like coach, like letting them solve the problem. Can you give like an example of like what that looks like in the weight room for you? Because
sure.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
I think that a lot of the time it comes with, for me, it's right off the bat, it starts with like yielding isometrics, right? That's a constraint. That's a constraint I've put on a movement. And the movement pattern itself has not changed, right? I haven't told them to do a hinge instead of a squat. I've told them to do a squat with 3 pauses at 3 different positions. And I want to see the way that the athlete moves through that. And that's one example. I think a better example is our deep tier stuff and the landings that we do. I don't tell them how to land. I don't tell them how to land on one foot. I don't tell them how to land when we go off of a depth drop into a staggered stance position. I tell them I want them to be stable when they land. So sometimes when an athlete lands on their toe or they land with their feet stacked on top of each other and they sway and they can't get out of that position, they look at me and they go, "Oh, that was wrong, huh?" Or "Oh, that wasn't what you wanted." And that's a better example of them solving the problem in real time. They are the ones landing. They're the one going, "Ooh, like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know how to control this thing, but I think this is how I can do it better." And they do. And so I think that is a better example of them in real time solving that problem and being able to spit out a solution that works for them without me overcoaching a landing, something as simple as a landing. Again, creating that constraint. So to me, the constraint in the drop jump is the height of the box that they're falling off of and positional awareness when they land, whether I'm telling them to land bilaterally, unilaterally, right foot in front, left foot in front, lateral facing, whatever it is, right? I will give the constraint on how I want them to land. But other than that, like foot position, all that stuff, landing on a flat foot, or if they want to jump barefoot, or if that, whatever it is, they can do that and they can solve those problems themselves as they land, as they try to regain stability, getting into those bottom positions or whatever it is. Again, I can like watch them solve those problems in real time. And I think that becomes really fun for them as well, especially when we get into like a little bit more intensified movements, like our little vault jumps. We'll jump off of a box, and watching them solve problems in real time in the air. Like if I tell them, when they jump off that box, if I'm sitting there yelling at them and I tell them like switch or like turn around or left foot forward, whatever it is, watching them do that in real time is hilarious and great for them, right? And it's giving them feedback. It's giving they're able to move their bodies in space and adjust for what they need to, and not necessarily worried about the small nitty gritty things that might break them down on that landing or have them land poorly. They're a little bit more engaged, and yeah, so that's one of the ways that I really enjoy watching them solve a problem, watching them solve a movement problem. Um, Ground-based work is really good for that too. Telling them to get from point A to point B crawling and then just see what happens. How do they move? Do they rotate a lot? Do they not rotate a lot? Do they use their arms? Do they stay back on their feet? Like what's going on with that?
Um, okay, so I really like this. So, what point are you like? Okay, so two questions, I guess. The first one is like, are you making these changes in terms of like landing and positions within a set, within the week, or like within a block of training, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Really, I'm going to be really honest with you. There are days I make the adjustment on the spot. Like there are days where I'm like, man, they've mastered this single leg landing. Like let's progress it and let's have a bounce out. And sometimes that bounce out is the new problem to solve. Hey, bounce out twice, land on both legs, or bounce out twice, land on your left foot, whatever it is. Sometimes it's on the fly. For me, more often than not, I want to start with just accumulating really great loads with the landing. So that's where I'll ask them to solve problems is like with different landing patterns, right? Can I get you to land in a staggered stance? Can I get you to land in a deep tier position? Can I get you to land on 2 feet and transition to 1 foot, right? What do all those things look like? And what do they do when I tell them to do that? Whether it's tennis or volleyball, tennis tends to not jump as well, but they land well. Tennis can land and reposition really, really well. The jumping, the reaccelerating part, not great for them, right? Way better for volleyball. Um, but yeah, so giving them unfamiliar scenarios sometimes just happens day of, especially if they look really good. But I like to plan that out in the off season, late off season specifically, because I like to accumulate load first. I want to accumulate load. I want us to get strong. And then later in the off season, getting closer to the preseason, we start accumulating quite a bit of landing and quite a bit of jumping context. I don't say plyometrics because they're not fast. None of them are fast. They're all jumping. It's all loading. It's all interacting with the ground for a long duration of time. Um, and then we kind of go into some extensive days where sometimes there are some plyos that we do interact quickly with the ground and we recover quickly. And yeah, that's kind of how I like to dose that stuff in. It's just on the day sometimes that I'll look and like see a need for an intensification because they've already mastered something, and then I like it because then moving forward I can always regress it, right? There's always a place for me to go regression wise, and that's I think really important for coaches to know how to do. You don't just need to worry about progressing them. I need to think in my brain, well, what if something goes wrong and I need to go a couple steps back? How do I regress this movement? And for me, the problem solving scenario is I just tell them what to do. Like it can be that easy. Like, hey, I want you to land left foot forward every time. And they're like, oh, okay, okay, like got it, cool. And that lets them think just a little bit less. Um, and again, when I give them instructions, I don't want them to just memorize instructions. Like not everybody's going to squat the same. So I give them the keys, I give them the baseline, I make sure we look good when we're doing it, but not everybody looks the same. And a cue that works for one kid might not work for another kid. So I'm very specific with what I say.
I hear you mentioning the word like thinking a lot, and as far as the athlete goes, and I listened to a little bit of a snippet from the podcast you did with Austin Yoakum recently, and you were talking about the same thing, like getting these athletes to think about things, especially in the context of warm-ups.
Yeah.
I know you like having fun in your warm-ups too. You have an aspect of play involved in that. From those terms, do you want to talk about like the thinking aspect that you're really trying to drive, and just like that the neurological challenges that you're trying to get out of those exercises or those warm-ups, and then why?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it all comes back to intent, right? Competition and all of that in general, the gamification of those things just raises intent, because I now no longer have to seek effort out. It's just there. right? Because the environment demands it. The environment of the game now demands that from you. So I don't have to beg for it. And that's my favorite part of games. That's my favorite part. I never once have had to, I've never introduced a game and had them be like this bitch wants to play a game. Like they're all like, oh, like, yes, a game, like something else, something different, because they don't love the training like I do. And some of them do. I'm not going to sit there and talk trash. If any of the kids saw this, I know you like to train, right? But there are a lot of those things that you need to add a little bit of fun in there, because their sport at one time was their fun and now it's their job. So, like, it's still fun for them, I'm sure, but a lot of them need something else. They want a small snippet of a good time. And why wouldn't I give that to them if I can do that and get what I want out of it? I think there comes a time where it can get a little bit out of hand, and you just see people running, you see people running amok, and now if there's no constraint, it's giving me what I need out of this. If we're not getting good jump contacts, if we're not getting any speed work out of it, or racing or competition or body prep, right? If we're not getting contact prep in, it becomes a little bit useless. But I've seen some great stuff, and a reference for that is Tim Franklin. He's a great high school coach, and he uses quite a bit of gamification and speed work for his middle schoolers. And I mean, it's awesome. He uses a bunch of jumping in there. There's a broad jump comp that he does where a kid starts at half court doing a broad jump, and the other kid starts at the other end of the court with a sprint in, and they get to try and catch him before they get to the other end of the court. Broad jump. What do we know about a broad jump? For accelerative action, that's what we want, right? That's how we're creating forward momentum. And then the kid that's sprinting is sprinting, trying to catch this person, right? Trying to win. So I think when it gives you what you want, gamification is incredibly valuable. You just have to be creative and curious, or find people like Tim, like I do, where I'm like, Tim, what's Tim doing today? Like, let me look and see what Tim's doing, because he gives me him and Rhett Larson. And there are quite a few people that give a lot of great ideas and a lot of great perspective when it comes to gamification. And then sometimes I make my own up. Like I've made my own stuff up with knocking over foam rollers and all kinds of stuff with just the volleyball kids in general, because I'm like, I think they'd like that, and they do sometimes. Med ball, volleyball, one thing goes to the next, and then med ball ultimate, my personal favorite. If you want to get some really intense exposures and contacts and throws, play med ball ultimate. It's really fun. But making sure that the gamification is is something that's increasing intent, not something that's just like haha. Because when it does look crazy, I can justify it out with the increased intent. When it gets to that point of just, it's no longer athletic, it's just goofy, that's when I start getting questions from my head coach. She's like, what are you doing? Oh, great question. I don't know anymore. Time to quit. Time to be done.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Rowan?
No, you got it.
Yeah, I'm going to give my reasoning for the question before I ask the question. But one of the things that I've learned, even though I'm super young, but it's something that I've learned is like to ask the same question to different people to get different responses, so that you have a better understanding of when someone asks you the question, you know how to answer it. So my question to you is, how do you explain that to a sport coach where it's like, why are my athletes coming in and playing games? Like, shouldn't we be working out? Like, I want to know what your answer is to that. Because I want to know that for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've not had that conversation more than one time, because I show them this is why. Like, they're more often than not, it's the easiest thing for me to say, well, coach, have you seen the amount of intent and effort that gets put into these games? And they were like, yeah, I have. Okay, cool. That's why. Then that's why we are increasing intent to the point that there is no question. There is nothing left on that. They're not out there just playing rock, paper, scissors, right? The coaches aren't going like, cool, like, what the heck are we doing?
It's okay.
But that's my biggest thing, is that if it truly drives intent, if the game that you are playing looks and feels either intense or purposeful when in accordance with prep, like the game that I was playing, I posted it quite a while ago. I had a warm-up game where it was played with music. When the music was on, they were doing a certain movement pattern, right, around a foam roller. When the music stopped, they sprinted, picked up a volleyball, turned around, and they threw it at that foam roller. And the first one to knock it over won. If they
Mm.
missed with the ball, they were allowed to run back and knock the foam roller over. We're getting great change of direction. We're getting incredible contacts when it comes to the prep. Now they're getting a little bit of upper body prep in, right? They're getting exposures that they need, and now we're involving different senses, right? They're listening for the music to stop. It's not just their eyes, right? They're not just reacting to something. Now they're reacting to an auditory stimulus. So it goes a little bit deeper than just, oh, coach, we're just going to play games. Like, no, coach, I'm turning on their nervous system in every way. We're getting hyped up. We're diving on the floor. You've never seen a warm up look better than when they're that locked in and they have that amount of intent coming behind every action because they want to win, because it's a game and they're athletes. So they want to compete and they want to win. I've never had tennis, speaking just to tennis specifically, I've never had tennis have better speed sessions than when I put constraints on them with sharks and minnows.
Mm.
Ever. The shark is only allowed to move in the frontal plane, right? Shark can only move side to side. Everybody else can only move diagonally, right? Whatever. I put those constraints on them and then they go, right? Then I send them. And now we have all kinds of speed sessions. We have the chasing. We have fast first starts. We've got all kinds of stuff. And they never have as good of sessions as when we're playing those games. And the coaches see it. They're not like the kids aren't rolling their eyes and being like, oh, we have to run. Like they're like, oh my gosh, we get to play this game today. Yeah, you do. This is how they screwed us in PE. They were like, it's called cat and mouse. No, it wasn't. It was called run around the gym 50 times. That's all they had us doing till we caught each other. But that's real. So, and I do that to my kids now because it works. It makes a lot of sense and it works.
From someone who's tried to integrate this play aspect into the collegiate setting before, and for lack of a better term, kind of blew my load too early in the year by using up all the ideas that I had. What are your like kind of cycles with this? Do you have more like standard tasks that you start the year out with, and then you progress them as time goes on? And then how long are these kind of staying within a training block, or is it just like every day something different?
The gameplay specifically?
Yeah.
So the gameplay specifically, in the beginning, I don't use it a lot because I'm not looking for intent, right? At the beginning of I'm not looking for intent at the beginning. I'm looking to teach them certain movement patterns. I'm looking to teach them certain positions to get into. So right now, like in the well, it's late off season, early preseason, we're not doing a lot of that. They're learning how to access good positions. They're figuring out different ways to go about things. Right now, I'm using games as kind of like a reward, right? At the end of a session, before they actually play together. Right. It just depends on what I want, right? So in the off season, I use it in all of our week to week stuff. We have one big competition every week, and it's a game. Sometimes it's played with balloons. Sometimes it's played right with just depending on what I want to see out of it. Is it ground based? Is it shoulder? Is it big, heavy on the shoulders? Are we going to play some type of tag game, right? A speed game, whatever. So the game has to serve, in my mind, the game has to serve the day, right? The game has to serve the goal of the day. So low body prep. Are we doing chases up the stadium, right? Are we having them like try to play tag? Are we having them try to catch somebody like a relay race going up the stadium? Are we trying to have somebody, catch somebody in the gym? Are we playing reaction games? Because that's actually really fun too. Playing different reactive games to get them prepped for practice, to warm their eyes up. That's it. It's just to get them looking and figuring out how to increase and improve that hand-eye coordination, right? Maybe it's catching, maybe it's throwing, maybe it's releasing. Don't know. But the game has to serve the day. Sometimes we will play the same game pretty consistently, like week to week. If med ball volleyball was in there over the summer on Fridays, it's going to stay med ball volleyball on Fridays, and they get excited for that. And it just happens to be a really good CNS prep for some of the stuff that we do afterwards. Kind of the same thing goes for the chasing and the speed work and the reacceleration stuff and the decel. So there are partner, we'll call them, well, it is agility, right? When you're reading another person And you can have them stand across from each other with cones and give them little windows of pockets to run through. And that's one of my favorite things to do with tennis is have them give them the opportunity to mirror somebody. And when that person shoots through the window, they can go chase them and catch them. And again, raising intent, it's raising the level um, of intention and effort that they're giving. And that makes the warm up, again, we're getting good changes of direction and they're getting great speed work in because they're just trying to get away from somebody. They don't want to get tagged, right? Whatever it is. So I think that outside, beside just the sport itself, warming up for your actual sport, I don't think it gets a whole lot better than when you can play a 5-minute game that's simple and can be done repeatably over time. It doesn't always have to be new. I think the nuance piece of that is everybody thinking that it has to be new and exciting. It doesn't. They're so happy to play the same game twice or to play any game at all if it's introduced to them, and they understand why they're doing it and the rules are clear. That's another thing I've learned over time. They like to cheat if the rules aren't clear because why not? You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
I feel that them finding ways to cheat aspect. Especially for, I guess, the setting that I'm in professional sports, I have started to run into some situations where, like, what I deem as fun does not necessarily correlate with what the athlete finds fun. How do you kind of bridge that gap, whether it's in the training, specifically in the warm-up? How do you find ways to bridge that gap between what an athlete thinks or what a group thinks is fun and what you think is fun?
So I just ask generally, right? It's kind of one of those things where I'll engage with them and tell them, hey, if you see something on social media, send it to me. If you see something that looks like a good time, send it to me. And there's the ones that are like stupid and they'll be like, look, balancing on this band and this Bosu ball. And then I want to jump to the stop. Like, I didn't tell you to send me bullshit training. Like, I didn't tell you to send me that. But like one kid sent me like the floor is lava. And it was something like that where they were balancing on like Airx pads to get from place to place. And they were like, we should do this. Like the floor is lava. Sure. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. That sounds like a great time. So little things like that to me can go a long way of just connecting with them and asking them, well, do you think this is fun? Or trialing a game out, just introducing it and saying, hey, we're going to do this and just seeing how it lands, right? Try it one time. And if it doesn't land well, then I'm probably not going to bring it back. If it lands really well, then it gets pocketed and I write it down. I'm like, this is something that's really good for me. But part of the relationship aspect is for me just building that rapport of just asking, hey, do you enjoy this? If not, cool. What's up? Can you give me a suggestion? Can you tell me how you would like it more? Or if you just are telling me to just scrap it. And there's certain games over time that I have literally just scrapped. No good. Don't want it. I let them wrestle one time and they ask me every week if they can wrestle. Okay, when are we bringing back wrestling? When are we going to do that again? When can I absolutely throw down with my teammates? I'm like, not right now. Not right now. We're in the wrong time of the year for that. But yeah, it's just the engagement for me of asking those questions and trying to really dive into what they deem to be fun. Because like you said, what I think is fun and what they think is fun might be two very different things. But I'll tell you what, when when they're laughing and having a good time, it's good to see and it's easy to see what they enjoy and what they don't.
Yeah, I've when I was an athlete for 1 or 2 years, we had a new strength coach, and Ro knows who he is. He's very abstract with what he does, and that was like he had the most fun warm-ups. We would do like jujitsu pummels for like upper body warm-ups, or we would do like duck walk races or stuff like that. So yeah, I guess from an athlete perspective, it was always fun when it was more than just like the dynamic warm-up.
Right. And the dynamic warm-up is done with such low, again, I'll take it back to intent every time. That dynamic warm-up is done with such low intention. Not a lot of good stuff is happening. I'll always do a little bit of it because I want you to hit certain movement patterns. But then I try to get creative with the gameplay. And it's like, how can I make you hit these movement patterns in a game? Right? Can I make you try to shake somebody so that we're getting some frontal plane action in? Can I make you do certain jumping? Like, can I make, like I said about sharks and minnows, can I put the constraints on the sharks and the minnows so that they're doing the movement patterns that I want them to do? And the answer is usually yes. Just take a little bit of thinking.
Yeah, I think something that's also important that goes along with that. This is what I was going to say earlier. I now remembered
There we
was
go. Good.
it's not only like you get when you're playing games you get that like dopamine rush, which is
Mm,
actually like what you need from a physiological level to actually learn new motor skills or want to learn new things.
yeah.
And so I think that's something that's really important that you don't get from a dynamic warm up is like your athletes. I don't know when you guys practice, but like athletes come from class and they've been like they're just brain fried and they probably haven't eaten even though
Yeah.
they're supposed to.
Unfortunately.
Exactly, and it's like I like the games for like the warm ups because it's like you literally get that dopamine rush and then it gets you ready to do the thing that matters, which is like playing the sport.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're happy and they're laughing. And in the spring, to answer, well, to not answer, but to tell you, we practice at 6 a.m. So they come in and they just like kind of look like they want to die. And then I'll take them through certain, we do a little bit of movement prep first, and then I'll tell them, hey, we're playing this game. And they're like, yes, I love this one. Or like, oh, can't wait. Like I beat you in this last time. And it just starts turning into something totally different. And I can appreciate that on a lot of levels just as a competitor. Like, yeah, I want to beat your ass. I beat your ass last time and I beat your ass this time. Like this is exactly like talk smack. I love it when they start talking smack and um just are able to push themselves just a little bit farther in that warm up, increasing intent, having a good time. They're laughing, they're engaged, they're talking to their teammates. That's my favorite part.
I have a question that's going a little bit in a different direction. So, Anthony, if you have
Okay.
anything on this remaining, ask it.
No, no. I was just gonna say, we started doing for tennis spike ball, and most of them had never played spike ball. And the
Oh
first
yeah.
time, everyone was like, oh, whatever. Like they didn't even know how to play it. And then by the end of the year, it was like there was one day where we didn't even lift. We just played spike ball the whole
Hell
time.
yeah. I love that. That's what I gotta get doing with tennis. My tennis kids at first I think would be like, "Ugh, like I don't wanna jump. I don't wanna go to the ground. I don't wanna do any of that. Like, okay, well just modify. I'm just gonna make different rules, different spike ball rules.
Right. We've done it where we like sit in a squat. It's like you can't get out of a squat. We've done
See, there you go.
pogo
Constraints. Let's
hops.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, pogo
Come
hops.
on, Anthony. Great work.
Appreciate it. All right, Rowan, go ahead.
Okay, my question is about being at a place like LSU where there might be really high turnover in rosters every year. You might have
Hmm.
someone transferring in for their last year. They have all this previous training experience at maybe 3 or 4 years at another college. How do you navigate them coming in, maybe having things that they want to do and that they have attributed success and performance in the past,
Hmm.
into kind of what you have planned in your model? Because I think college is, you're having full team lifts. It's very important that everyone's pretty much doing similar things. Do you have any ways that you like introduce or modify for someone who has all this history of previous training at different institutions?
That's a good question. I think that my biggest thing is that everything that I do should be scalable, easily scalable to anybody, whether your training age is 0 or you've been training hard for the past 4 years at a place like TCU, where you come in and you're just ready. Um, and I think that to that point, um, I don't always go for the most advanced thing, right? It's just come in and can we positionally get you in the right spot? And that a lot of the times comes with my yielding isometrics. That's what I start with. That's how I teach good positions. And so when it comes to the actual act of getting them in, and I don't do movement assessments, we train, right? We train, and I'm going to put the constraints on whether I do the yielding isos and we do a 3-part pause, whether I'm doing, overcoming and seeing if they can maintain tension in certain positions. I think the most important thing to me is that I communicate to them why they're doing what they're doing. And like for example, why I don't use the power clean, right? There are some, I've never, to this day, I have never had an athlete come in and be like, why aren't we cleaning? I really want to clean, because they hate it, because unfortunately they were taught poorly, and it has become their nemesis instead of something that has helped them in their performance. And I personally am a power clean absolute lover. The hang power clean is one of my favorite movements. I don't coach it. And the reason I don't is because with the with all the benefits that you can get out of it, if it takes an athlete 4 years to get good at something, it's not a good thing, right? I would rather them choose something that they like and that they're good at, because at the end of the day, exercises are just the vehicle that get us where we want to go. Movement patterns win, sequencing wins, right? Those are the things that I want to see improve. And 9 times out of 10, the power clean looks like shit. I've seen very few and far between kids that come in and I go, damn, that kid can clean. Like that kid must have had like a really good background, like with a good Olympic lifting coach. And you know what? Those kids are allowed to do what they want to do. So, Rowan, to your point of I want things to look the same, I don't. I'm not that strength coach. You won't walk into the weight room when I'm in session and see everybody doing the same thing. You're probably going to see some kids doing some different squat patterns. They'll be doing the same tempo, right? They'll have the same constraints on them, but it'll be different. And if they're choosing a goblet squat, it'll be different if they were doing a zercher. If they were doing a zercher, it'll probably be a little bit different than if they were doing a back squat. I use machines, right? I'm not against kids being on the pit shark and the leg extension or the leg press, because I think that the spine is the limiter when it comes to a lot of the squatting that we do. So if I'm trying to develop the quad and I'm truly trying to develop the quad, things are going to look a little bit different. Big unilateral work, right? Big on that. So when I explain and I break down what it is, why we're doing to the kids that we do get in, because I do get in transfers, when I break those things down, it's easy for them to buy in because they can understand how that might translate and transfer to the court. So I don't have nearly as much problem communicating why we do what we do, because we can readily see results, whether that's on the force plate or how they feel when they get back on the court. But yeah, I do have a reason. I do have a why. And if they ever ask me the why, I'm ready. I'm here to give it. If they never ask me the why, sometimes they get it anyway, because at the beginning of our training session, when I break down what we're doing and why we're doing, I'm going to tell them how it's going to translate to what they want to see on the floor. So similar, like the uniformity in the room is not real for me. It's really not, because I have 18 bodies that look very different. I don't have between the heights and the proportions and the anthropometrics, they look really different. So all of them move just a little bit differently. So that's the long way of saying I don't always have them look exactly the same.
That was a great answer. Thank you.
You kind of touched on it a couple of times, talking about like the yielding isometrics. Obviously, I've been following your page. So there's been a lot of content of like yielding, overcoming isometrics with some, I guess, devices, and then just like in different positions. What role do isometrics play in your program, and why is that something that you put a lot of thought into?
So rehab adopted ISOs, right? Rehab adopted isometrics because they're useful. And that doesn't mean they're only useful for rehab, right? The athletes are constantly required to produce force to meet it, to maintain position, and to redirect force. And those are performance demands, not just rehab demands. So it really, to me, it's not like, should I use ISOs? It's just, what kind of adaptation am I trying to create? Right? I want to transition into physiology and the actual adaptation spectrum of the tendon, of the muscle, of the nervous system, of movement, of coordination, right? And I want to look at that, and I want to look and see how muscles create force, tendons transmit force, and performance requires both. So we're not only doing ISOs. Please don't ever hear me be like an isometric evangelist where I'm like, everybody should only be isometrically training all the time. That's bullshit, right? Sport is dynamic. However, I do think that tendon stiffness is important, because again, that's what's translating everything into what it is that we're doing. So I'm chasing efficient force transfer and better energy return, and really the reduced risk for what I'll just say is an energy leak. And those outcomes really matter. And so when we're looking at isometrics, stiffness regulation and stiffness maximization, they don't need to maximize stiffness, right? It doesn't need to be all overcoming isometrics. They need appropriate stiffness. So with volleyball, landing, jumping, blocking, changing directions, at some point in time, it's all stiffness. And you hit it a little bit, right? Isometrics aren't all created equal. So they are spread throughout the year in my program everywhere. They don't ever leave my program. There is some there's some amount of yielding isometric, overcoming isometric, or quasi isometric in every phase of my program, even if that's only in the trunk work. Everybody does it all the time. We're talking about planks. We're doing, all kinds of things, dead bugs. You're doing an ISO at some point in time. Um, for adaptations that I want to see, like if I look at yielding isometrics, I want to see capacity, I want to see tendon loading, and I want to see positional ownership. And those are the things to me that are truly accomplished in the early off season. So we have that in the off season, and then we start going into overcoming isometrics, and the adaptation shifts into neural outputs, high intent, rate of force development support, right? And I'm not saying that any of those things are the end all be all, and that all of this solves every single problem, but I do think isometrics solve a lot of problems for us. So I mean, the athletes should move. Yes, they should absolutely still jump, still sprint, still lift. So we do. The purpose of the overcoming ISO is to improve force production, right? And the qualities that support those explosive movements. And force production will precede movement in everything that we do. Every action begins with an isometric and ends with the body trying to return to a still isometric state. So I think it's really important. And then the quasi isometrics come in with positional control under motion, right? When we're doing the controlled tempos, the controlled eccentric, and the controlled concentric actions. So that bridges the gap to me between traditional strength work and static work and positional control. Yeah, I think we could get into a lot of things. There's a lot of criticisms that come along with that, of them being super angle specific. And there are a lot of things that I could say to that, but the exact angles we train don't exactly have to be the exact angles at which the athlete fails or succeeds the most. But it is something that I think about when I'm implementing ISOs across the board. Anything else you specifically want to roll into when it comes to ISOs and how I implement them? Because that's my baby right now, is that it's going across the board. I'm very much in an omni contraction cycle where my athletes are getting exposure at least every 2 to 3 days to either a very high isometric overcoming stimulus, a yielding stimulus, or eccentric and concentric outputs kind of sprinkled in between. And it's something I never thought about in the past until Devin Young, who's at Pitt, really brought it full front to me. And it's been great, I think, for their capacity for tendon robustness, for, again, like force production, especially since I don't use traditional Olympic lifts. But yeah, it's been really fun. And like traditional strength training versus isometric strength training, looking at like more hypertrophy with traditional strength training. I'm not trying to do that with volleyball. I don't need to put mass on them. So training more with isometrics makes sense. Larger ranges of motion with traditional strength training, great, love that. More position specific ranges with ISOs, still good, right? So we do both. Like excellent force development with traditional strength training, excellent force development with isometrics. I want both. Higher soreness with dynamic movement and traditional strength training, not as much soreness with isometrics. So they're by no means replacing dynamic movement. They're complementing all the dynamic movements that we do.
Yeah, I think
It's my baby right
I
now.
think
I could go on. I could go
I
on
think
about that all
that
fucking
really hit the
day.
nail in terms of like, and maybe I'm wrong. Like, I
Probably
don't have
not.
a lot of experience, but it's like I feel like we all know what the big main sports are, like in college, and I feel like the ideologies and philosophies of those sports and how they are trained bleed down into like things that are very, very skill specific. And now that's not to say that the big major sports aren't skill specific. They are, but it's just like that is not gonna that's not gonna work with like my population. Like
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like I don't need traditional barbell movements compared to like what I'm doing to get the same outcome. And with that, it's like maybe I don't need to put muscle mass on these people, but I feel like there's just like this audience of people that's like, oh, just like stick to like keep adding
Yes.
donuts to the barbell, and it's like, all right,
Chill out, bruh. I don't need to add more freaking weight to this bar right now. You can't own. That's the other piece of a lot of the ISOs that we do. If you can't own a position for 10 to 20 seconds, I don't want to see you putting more weight on the bar, dude. I want you to own that bottom position. I want you to own this mid-range position. That it's honestly, you're earning the right to be in those positions and to be under load with them. Um, I love it. I think it's so much fun. I think it's just a really neat opportunity for us to dive in and see, especially working with women. We don't need to put them through these massive hypertrophy blocks. Like they're not looking to get freaking huge. If we want to do that, we know how we can do that. But I want them to be freaking strong and I want them to be capable. And they don't need to get bigger to do that. In fact, not this isn't fat, but mass don't fly. It truly does not. Like the more mass I'm putting on them, the more I'm probably keeping them on the ground. So when we're sitting there talking about putting mass on, even lean mass, probably not always good, right? I don't always want to be doing that to them. I don't need to just be loading them down. Sometimes it's just about making them efficient with the muscle mass that they have and giving them opportunities to produce force and express force more efficiently.
yeah, 100%. And one thing I was gonna add to that, well, I forgot again, but it spiked up another thing, which is like that's one thing that I really like that Alex Natera talks about is he works with a lot of track and field distance or sprinters, and he's like, I don't ever want to put mass on like a distance runner. Like that
Yeah.
is the total opposite of what my goal is.
That's goofy. They would hate you. They would never come back.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Okay.
Yes.
So I think that's a good point in terms of owning the position. It sounds very like like yeah, owning the
Sounds dumb.
position is important.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't sound dumb, but it's just like I think there's more to it that's really important, which is like this is something that Jordan Shallow talks about. He does all the prescript courses and things.
Hmm.
Is he talks about like structure and function and how like you don't want to be resting on your structure, which is like bones, ligaments, those type of tissues. And I know people have like their opinion on the word stability. But one of the things he talks about is like if you can't like own a stable position, if you can't own your body weight on a single leg and be able to like stabilize that, then like in no way you should be squatting on two because it shows you that you don't have the adequate stability to be able to support yourself. And you're
Yeah.
probably, for example, it's like if you can't stabilize yourself on one leg, then if you move to a double leg squat, your yielding at the bottom is probably due to you like resting on your function, which is your bones and your ligaments,
Hmm.
to actually get you back up rather than like your actual muscle and your
Yeah.
nerve. Well, I guess but your actual muscle, because
Hmm.
like at the end of the day, we can't tell when it comes to like that. Or as much as I know, we can't tell during that amortization phase how much of it is bone and tendon and ligament and how much of it is actual muscle.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. It's a good assessment, and he has like a variety of assessments to know if someone has the adequate stability to like get themselves out of the position with the things that matter, which is like honestly just like your muscle.
Right.
I think that's
Right.
really important, and it's like you're totally right. Like why add a barbell to the movement? He also talks about it's like sometimes the barbell actually pushes someone down into the position they can't get into themselves, which
Yeah.
just shows even more that they're not functionally able, which functionally is just like they're not able to do it with their own body and they're using
Yeah.
an external implement to actually push them into the position, which I
Yeah.
guess has its people have their opinions about that, but I thought I
But
just made a
but think
connection
about
there.
layback. Like I'm gonna give you an option with baseball. Think about layback. If I can't lay back into the correct position, if I'm gonna pitch and I can't get there without velo or without a little bit of momentum, I can't get there. Right? I want to own that position when I'm here, when I'm in layback. I want to be able to get to that position and get to extension on my own. I don't want to have to force myself into it every time. And that's why we're so intentional about checking internal and external rotation is to make sure that pitchers can maintain that, right?
Right.
And to me, that's kind of where I'm getting to with this, is that if you can't get into those positions and access those positions early on and create, again, ownership, I'm going to say that a lot, I say that word a lot, ownership over that function, then you can't get there. And when you're forced into that position by an outside, call it gravity, a person, right? I think we're a little bit more, what if somebody falls on you, right? I don't know. There's all kinds of things that could happen. When we access those positions against our will, I think that's when injury can likely happen. I'm not going to speak to that a whole lot. I'm not an injury expert, but I think that the form follows function whole thing. When you can access those positions, you become a more functional human being and an athlete that can access those spots and, again, be able to move out of them. And that's part of why I started doing all the deep tier stuff. And we do isometrics in low positions. And it's really it's an interesting time to be had by all, because we get a lot of moaning and groaning because it's difficult, but it will make you better out of certain angles and certain positions just to train them. Um, yeah, because it's the position specificity and the angle specificity is definitely a feature. It's not a flaw. You can train to the body to like turn on right at certain angles, and that's what those overcoming isometrics do for us at certain angles. Think like landing, deceleration, block positions, trunk position. Um, all of those things matter. It's not sport, but it's sport specific or position specific enough to make an impact.
Right. To make an impact to what actually matters, which is the sport.
I hope. I hope. I keep praying on that one. I don't know. I keep praying on it, but we'll see.
What an awesome couple minutes there. If that's not the most replayed, I'm gonna single-handedly make that the most replayed part of this episode. Like, that was fantastic to listen to. Thank you guys.
Love that. Love that.
Well, I think, Rowan, didn't we talk about it on the last podcast? Where it's just like I get it. Like I get it because I've been in that. I mean, I hate saying a bit, but like I've done like the 5-3-1, like
Yeah.
hypertrophy clusters.
Try
like,
everything.
It's all
Yeah.
right, and it's like I just can't. Maybe it's just the period of my career I'm in, but I can't sit in of like the area of like just lift heavy. Like sure,
Yeah.
like keep the main thing. Like that's fine, but it's like not everything is just like add more weight to the barbell. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
It's not. And I agree with you that it's not. And that's part of why I don't want our M assess. I don't want our M test, whatever the fuck that means. I don't care. We do. So I use an isometric assessment, right? A mid thigh pull. And we did it this week. And I, on average, had kids that are increasing 5 to 10% in the last 2 weeks. That's it. Just 2 weeks. And all we've done in the last 2 weeks is yielding isometrics, 2 days of yielding isometrics and 2 days of overcoming isometrics, split between the upper and lower half with a lot of trunk work in between, because that is my power translator. So when we get stronger, you're going to know. It doesn't just always have to be more weight on the barbell. It can be efficiency. It can be sequencing. It can be so many other things that it can be control, eccentric control. That's it. It can literally just be controlled lengthening. And you've seen, if you've been on my social media, you've seen I do long duration eccentrics. And that is something that I think is so incredibly valuable. And to be able to own a position through the fullest possible range, especially when you've reached fatigue at the bottom, you can't tell me you're training those things and not getting stronger. You're tolerating forces at areas that you normally don't have to. And you can do it for 1 to 2 reps and be done. And you can see success and you can see progress because of that. And I can tell you that they're seeing progress because of those numbers that we use on that mid thigh pull. And it's just really cool to watch these athletes. So it's not just happening on my undertrained kids. It's not just happening on the kids that are freshmen. It's happening on the juniors and seniors as well. And they're seeing the benefits as well. So you don't just always have to move faster, and you don't just always have to move heavier weight. I do think the stress and the strain is important. To pull some of Joe Ken's words out, stress and strain is important, and we can't take the strength component outside of strength conditioning. But there are a lot of other important factors that we need to think about when it comes to force production and our ability to execute and be efficient with it. And I think that's something that that's a problem that isometrics solve for me.
Yeah, I feel like some of the things that I kind of hinted at that get passed down are from like football, which like
They are.
nothing wrong with football. Like they
There's
create the
something
money.
wrong with them.
Yeah,
There's a lot wrong with football.
but it's like I
okay.
feel like a lot of those things get passed down. It's like thou shall do this. It's
Yeah.
like thou shall power
Curl in
clean,
the
like you
squat
said
rack.
earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
all of that stuff. And
And
yeah,
I shall not.
right.
You can't tell me shit. You can't tell me shit. You can't tell me that what I'm doing isn't working because I'll show you the trend lines. It is in fact working, and it's working at a very high level with athletes who are, again, not just freshmen. It's not just the neural component, because there is such thing as that neural adaptation that will happen in the first 6 weeks of, you could tell them to go bang their head into that wall over there and it'll make them better. And I think that's what you see a lot. And as sports science stuff gets better, I'm hoping that that becomes a little bit more revealed, because I really don't care what you can do on two legs. What about a single leg squat? What about a split squat? What about a Hatfield on one leg? For all these football people that want to clean 500, whatever it is, you want to squat 600. What about Nick DeMarco, like you were just saying, who had a guy split squat 500 pounds the other day? That's wild. That's wild. That's so cool, because he can control that amount on one leg, not just two. So it means a lot to me. But yeah, the rest of football, some of football is broken. If I ever see somebody with a friggin' band in their mouth connected to a dumbbell, letting it like rip around and like ever again, I'm gonna shit. 5-3-1, things that trickle down from football. Lift really heavy, put more donuts on the bar. I want to see how heavy I can lift, which, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
lifting
I
heavy weights is
remember.
cool. Oh yeah, let's go.
Okay. Oh, another thing I was gonna add to that is just it's like, and the thing I like is that Cal Dietz kind of hints this in his book, where it's like, what about if these gains you're getting on the barbell are just like you're getting better at the skill of squatting and not actually getting stronger? Like there's a skill component, and you brought it up just right now that you'll use a mid thigh pull to assess it, and a mid thigh pull has like very low to no skill requirement, right? Whereas like back squat or front squat, power clean, 1 rep max, like there's a skill component. Like what if your athlete just got better at the skill, but it's like oh, like the weight went up, so therefore like they're stronger now.
Yeah. Can't say it. Can't convince me. You can't convince me that that actually matters unless it is your sport. Unless you are a power lifter, unless you are an Olympic lifter, then yes, absolutely. That is your sport. It does in fact matter. Can we tolerate more load on one leg? Can we move really well through complete full ranges of motion? If the answer is yes, then we will be able to add load and accumulate load and then intensify those actions to make them make sense for sport. So I think we just got caught up, honestly. And I was in that camp for a while. It was like, lift heavier, lift more, lift heavier. I am a strength coach. Yeah, well, I'm more apt to call myself an athletic performance professional these days, because that's my gift. My gift should be athletic performance at the highest level, efficiency, longevity, and I should be able to give these athletes skill expression, right, in their sport, not in the weight room. We're not going to do this 5-year thing to power clean. If it takes them 5 years to learn a movement, it's not a good movement for them. If it takes them 2 years to learn how to squat correctly, it's not a good squat pattern for them. Pick another one, right? Go find something else to do. And if we're not going to load the bar like that, because I'm not going to compress anybody's spine axially, I'll let them leg press 1,000 pounds before I load a barbell on anybody's back like that.
Yeah. Sorry, Steven. Or it's not Steven. Rowan. Do you have anything?
Oops.
I keep asking the question. Steven's my current roommate, and yeah, it's
my current roommate. I love that.
I do. I have another broad question. One more broad question to ask. I do want to be respectful of your time as well, because we've already reached the hour mark. Talking about this trickle down effect, and I know you've done some like internship coordination stuff at various work environments. But talking about this trickle down effect, throughout your years, you've added a lot of letters after your name.
Yes.
Talking about the certifications and just like how much information there is out there. Someone getting into the industry, someone young like us, trying to kind of navigate like where we should go next and what avenues we should like really pursue. How do you recommend like filtering all that's out there? certifications obviously aren't the end all be all, but they're also
No.
good to get.
Yeah.
So what are your recommendations as far as that goes?
As far as just certifications themselves, find things that interest you. Truly, if it's a DNS, if it's the dynamic neuromuscular stabilization courses, cool, go take them. If you work with golf or you like golf or you want whatever to do with golf, go take the TPI courses. If you work baseball, softball, go take the on base U courses. The assessments are pretty valuable and like will give you decent amounts of feedback to give you what you want. I stay away from the FMSs personally. I took it. I haven't used it. I don't understand. There's a lot of things that I just don't do well with that. And that's my own personal bias. I just don't use that one a whole lot. I recommend that everybody take a USAW course because it is important that you know how to teach these lifts. But even if you don't use them, like I stay up to date on that stuff just because I want to be good, right? I want to make sure that I know how to do it myself. I want to know how to teach it to other people. Obviously, the CSCS and the SCCC are your gold standard. I think I would argue that the CSCS is the gold standard because that's the certification that's going to have a CASCI accreditation behind it. So everybody needs to make sure they have that by 2030 because you'll be grandfathered into that program. If not, you're going to have a really long, really unfortunate journey where you finish your bachelor's and then you go through an internship process with people who are RSCC like myself and you come to us for a certain amount of contact hours and then you have to take the test, you have to sit for an exam. I think they're probably going to come up with a practical at some point, because I think that's what separates the SCCC and the CSCC, I'm sorry, and the CSCS right now is that the SCCC has a practical exam, but I think that that's something that is kind of a little more standardized these days. And I think that the CSCS is still the gold standard for what we're doing. And I say that as an NSCA member and a CSCCA member. I think that both are great. If you can have both, cool. If you can afford it, if your school is paying for it, neat. I like to make everybody else pay for everything. I don't want to pay for any of that stuff out of pocket. So any of those courses, I'm going to take an isometric course here. ISOFIT is offering a strength coach isometric certification of some kind. And I'm in pretty deep with that company. So I'm going to take that. And because I am incredibly interested, and any and all education I can get around that is great. Any of the Altus certs I've heard are pretty good as far as the sprint, the what are they? They're not certifications necessarily. I think they're cohorts. But I've heard good things about them as well. So I think it's just kind of finding what you want to do, finding that little niche, the little nerdy thing that you really like and diving in and going in with your full chest. And that's something, like I said, that I've done, especially here recently. And that I'll continue to do just because it's what sparks my curiosity and makes me want to know how to do things better. So the certification process, when it comes to just what you're getting, truly, CSCS, start studying for it, take it, be certified so that you are hireable. That's it. You need to be sought after as a coach. And if you have that CSCS, you check a lot of people's boxes for insurance. So get that.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I have both CSCS
Great.
and SCCC. I do tend to recommend the CSCS just because it's a little bit more straightforward to get. You have to like actually go to the conference for the SCCC, which is money, is travel for a lot of people. So I usually recommend trying to find a workplace that'll pay for that.
Yes.
Like you said. But yeah, the rest of the stuff I liked that the Rose recommendations is too. Good advice there. All right, going into our kind of final segment here. This is our last question that we always ask guests. It's the AAA, what's powering you? Just inside the weight room, outside the weight room, just anything. What's inspiring you? What's keeping you going right now? What's your motivation?
Truly, right now, my motivation is just, for me, it is just curiosity. That's it. That's the biggest piece that keeps me going every single day is like asking myself, like, what is it today? What can I get better at today? Or what do I want to find out today? Whether it be a movement pattern, a solution to a problem that I'm having when it comes to an athlete and the way they're moving, whatever it is, it's just curiosity. Curiosity is fueling me to be better and to ask better questions and to get better answers. And that's That's it. Every day, waking up, asking good questions. And that dog that you saw, Hank, he also fuels me because he just wakes up really happy every morning and he's just like wagging his tail. And that's the best. So get a good dog and stay very curious about life, and you'll have a really good time.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, I know we both really appreciate you coming on the show. That was an incredible conversation. Like I said, like that one part, I was just having so much fun just listening to you guys. So, thank you for that, and good
Absolutely.
luck with the rest of your summer. I know things are probably picking up here.
A little
Athletes
bit.
starting to roll in. So, best of luck to you going forward, and hopefully we, can continue to collaborate and interact in the future as we all go through our careers.
Absolutely. I love it. Can't wait. Really good to
And then
meet you guys. Well,
sorry,
you,
I just wanted
Rowan.
to
No, you.
I wanted to add because it just reminded me. Congrats on was it NSCA Assistant Strength and
Yes.
Conditioning Coach of the Year? Yeah, that's
Yes,
awesome.
sir. Thank you. Thank you so
Congrats
much.
on
That's
that.
another reason I like them, right? Giving me awards and stuff. Why wouldn't I recommend the NSCA after all that? No, thank you. It really is a big deal. It's something that I've really, since I worked for them and since all that, I have been wanting to be a leader in this field, and I take that very seriously, and I take that it's something that I don't take lightly. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just been it's awesome to get to meet you in person the last couple of times. You have a really awesome heart, and yeah, it's just been you're just a cool person to be around.